Yeah. Pretty sure we're live.
We're live on the internets.
The very same internets that we were live on last time.
Series of tubes.
Yeah, I still have to go to my phone and search for my own podcast. Relics.
Modern Relics.
Modern Relics podcast. And it should say that we're live at some point.
We are live.
Yeah.
And amplified.
Oh, it says my broadcast, though.
Your broadcast or my broadcast?
It's a good point. It's Modern Relics on a very special Saturday evening. It's late. It's 11:30 just about.
Yep.
It's one half of the Relics anyway. Angel's here. Lucky's normally here. He's not.
I get
Paul's
to
still
fill
with
in.
us, though.
I get to be the guest.
Yeah, man. What a weird time. Like, a lot's gone on. I'll probably get into it for as much as I feel like getting into it this week. But it's been a bunch of firsts for you. You've had a mountain of firsts. You got to go to Freedom Firearms. You got...
I felt so much freedom in the air.
First crawfish boil today.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
A safety pickle.
I got a safety pickle. So this is, yeah, we'll keep going with the first, but this is a good little backstory.
Yeah, so I mean, tell us what's up. You're down here for IBS, the International Build Show.
International Build Show. I love just joking with people year round, like, oh, you go down to Vegas every year. What do you go down there for? Well, it's for IBS. I love having IBS for 3 days in a row, and I look forward to IBS for 3 days in a row every year. And just going for the irritable bowel syndrome, because that's what everybody jumps to. People don't think International Builder Show; they think IBS, which is great. This is my third year, and last year I found a whole wing that I didn't even know existed because the Las Vegas Convention Center is so massive. Mm-hmm. There was a whole section I didn't even know existed, and
what's up, Lucky?
Got to experience that. What's up, Lucky? I got to experience that last year, and then this year it was the last day of the show. As I'm walking to the car, it was like, oh, I wonder what's in the back of this area. Yeah. It's listed as mostly classrooms and a learning center. There's 3 other wings of this back area that I didn't even know existed. So I have, for next year, I get to add to the list a whole nother wing. So there's literally 4 or 5 days worth of booths that you could walk through for everything under the sun when it comes to building a house and being in the trades for that. But it's only 3 days, so you really have to kind of manage what you want to see and do a little research ahead of time. My first year, I just went in blind, and I was so overwhelmed. Yeah. But I knew it was going to be a lot of walking. Like Wednesday, I clocked over 10 miles of walking, but that also included a show that I got to go to after IBS was over. Slow Mo, so one of my favorite stoner rock bands played, and it was free. I love it when a show's free. The venue was great. The music was great. Norwegian stoner rock band, Slow Mosa. Shout out to them. But IBS was an absolute blast this year. They have the cables that run underneath the carpet for a lot of these events that are powering other booths. And it just so happened that there was a big old hump in the carpet right in front of a safety booth. I happened to trip on said hump in the carpet, and right in front of me pops out this little pickle from this guy, the safety booth guy. He's like, "Oh, you get a safety pickle." I'm like, what the hell is going on? I get a safety pickle? So I'm holding this thing, and it says, "In a safety pickle, gotsafety.com." They're all about safety solutions, and I'm guessing it's like OSHA compliance and stuff like that, safety training. But it's just a foam dill pickle that you can squish. And I was thinking about using this as a way to pick up on ladies the other night.
You know, the good news is, man, the safety pickle has popped up everywhere since you got it. We've brought it with us. It's been in the back seat of the car. It's been all over the place. We ventured out last night a little bit. Safety pickle was not too far away.
It was keeping me safe. It's not my safety blanket. It's my safety pickle.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer whistle pickles, though.
Yeah, whisper pickles. I feel a lot more safe with the safety pickle.
We keep that as our little safety pickle right there in the center.
So I admit I am like definitely pouring it on thick. I'm showing you all the cool spots down here, all the cool gun stores. I'm like, please move down here.
I'm working on it. It's a process.
Yeah.
Especially so for the viewers at home. I have lived in Washington all my life, and there's a lot to, I would say, disassemble and reassemble down here. So it's a process, and I figured I've got about 2 years to go through that whole process. So we get it figured out eventually, get down here. And then I also hope I mosey on over to Texas with some of my business that I do. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I've seen a lot of the ins and outs of being down here for 3 years of IBS with you.
Yeah.
And all the good food really helps out with IBS.
It does. Yeah, crawfish boil tonight.
I was...
Chicks dig the safety pickle, says Lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't found one yet, but we're hoping that he finds one that digs the safety pickle.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see if I can hand the baton of the safety pickle off.
Well, and then tomorrow we have the import face-off. It's like a car show up at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I'm pretty hyped on that.
I'm stoked.
See how it goes. But
good weather too. Mild weather.
It has been mild.
Not cooking.
It's been nice.
And it's not pissing rain.
Yeah, we got a little overcast.
Like my hometown.
Tonight also, probably past most of the good viewing angles, but for those that know that, I mean, if you know, you know. But last night, tonight, I think tomorrow night, maybe through Tuesday, we have a 5-planet alignment that pretty much anywhere in the northern hemisphere, you can stand outside and look up and see, like, what do we saw? Mercury, we saw Mars,
Jupiter, and Jupiter. Did we say Jupiter?
Yeah.
Mercury, Uranus.
Yeah, and Uranus.
Uranus.
But it's like, to the naked eye, they're just little dots that are, one is slightly different color than the next.
I highly recommend the Skyview app. I have that on my phone, and that helped us spot or determine exactly what spots we were looking at.
Lucky says no free night stays at the Golden Nugget this year, Paul?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not from this trade show.
Not from this trade show.
I had a couple ladies I talked to. I had one at the show that wouldn't leave me alone. I actually had to try and avoid her. And she wound up finding me again at the other side of the venue. And then I made sure to do an Irish exit. And I was happy to get away from that situation. But I think she wanted to marry me. I'm okay with none of that.
But if you're into planets and you have like a hobbyist level telescope, you'll get to see a lot more than just binoculars. But
yeah,
it was really bitching to just stand out there and be like, wow, there's
like, all these planets.
Clearly tell they're not stars in the, like, you know, as the sun is setting and stuff. But it was so cool.
We had twilight going on, and you could, or dusk.
Yeah.
Dusk.
Yeah.
You could see the planets just clear as day, clear as night. Mm-hmm. Clear as a star. You could tell it was a planet and not just a normal star. But there were a few that were far off and faded enough. You're like, I think that's a planet. And Skyview really kind of helps you lock in. And you can search by it, and it kind of tells you exactly where to be looking for that planet. So it's a good point of reference if you don't have a fancy telescope.
Super cool, though. Like, if you get a chance, I'd say go check it out. Because it's rare, but it's not like ultra rare to have multi-planet alignments like this, but it is odd to be able to see them that clearly at sunset, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, for the most part. But I thought it was cool.
I Googled last night because we got caught up watching a movie. So I hadn't seen Sicario. So we jumped into that a day or two ago, and then we decided to watch number 2 last night. And then we also watched, that was before we left for food.
Yep, and Boy Kills World.
Boy Kills World, which we'll hash that out at the end. That was awesome. That was my homework, and I was stoked with just like the first 10, 15 minutes. I was like, I'm on this ride. This is gonna be rad.
Trying to get you caught up on like all the cool movies that we've like had a good time with on the pod. You know what I mean?
Dude, and then so Sicario 2, get to jump down that rabbit hole, and then we kind of realized, oh crap, we're missing the alignment. So we booked it outside, and we were able to see a couple with the binoculars, but there was a little bit of haze last night. Today, the dusk today, it was a little more obvious where they were, and I think we caught it at the right time.
Yeah, look, he's like, great movies. Yeah, man, we're trying to get him caught up on, like, It's one thing to hear about it on the pod. It's another thing to sit down and experience it. It's good times.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, I was the first 5 minutes of Sicario. I was like, what am I watching?
Yeah.
Oh, this is not where I thought I was going to go.
Yeah, with the bodies in the walls and stuff. Yeah, we'll get into it.
Spoiler alert, there's bodies in the walls.
Bodies in the walls. So it's been a tale of two cities between you and me this last week.
Yeah.
Like, talk me through your week. You probably had a more fun week than I did.
Yeah.
Learning about cool new products and stuff. But
Well, it's been nice just having the break from the standard weather pattern for the Pacific Northwest is just rainy, cold, overcast. I'm sure they've had a few sun breaks up there, but I think it's going to be 40 and rainy when I get back next week.
Yeah.
So it's been nice to experience. And I mentioned this last night, we were having a pint at Mojave Brewing. It's nice to sit outside and see other people just hanging out, doing things on a Saturday night out because it's not raining. It's mild weather, and there's more of a nightlife. There's definitely more of a social aspect down here than what you'd normally see in Washington this time of year. Not to say that there isn't in the summertime up there.
Not huddled around inside of a brew pub with 4 layers on while you
layers on. Everybody
get
smells
saturated with someone's wet dog shaking themselves out.
Musky from the wet dog and other people's rain jackets stomping in, tromping off the water.
Just smells like BO and IPA.
IPA with the twisty mustache. You can smell the patchouli from across the room.
It's a different vibe though, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I just fucking love that. Hence the reason for wanting to move. I love it so much. Like I said before, I've got a good idea of what I want to look at the trade show now. So I hit some of the booths the materials that I use on jobs, one of them being this hydro block. It's a 1/2-inch backer board for installing tile. But stopping by their booth, I got to see some of the new products that they don't have out yet in the Pacific Northwest, specifically a solid foam core 1/2-inch drywall application. They also have an application for this for exterior walls for stucco. So
yeah, I saw that sitting on the counter.
Yeah, I wanted to show that to you too.
I thought this was a notepad, like that you could open and write on. I didn't even pick it up or anything.
So those come in different sizes and everything.
Yeah.
You use that, you install that on the wall, and then you glue all the seams with their special sealant, washer screws, stainless steel screws, and wafers, washer heads.
Pretty cool. Mold proof.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's waterproof, mold proof. You get the sealant on this right. This stuff is amazing for doing tile. But finding out about their other products, I was so stoked. This
Lucky
stuff
says Seattle's the Eeyore of weather. Dude, are you at work right now? I figured you probably just left the shop, huh? Suppose we could have dialed in with our co-host.
Oh yeah, the main co-host.
Yeah, since he's one half of the show and all.
Right.
In fairness, I thought we were going to get to this earlier this week and then obviously earlier today, but we got to hang out with Chris for a little bit tonight and his wife. And
we did a crab boil, and I got to try crawfish for the first time, which is like really tiny lobster tails.
Pretty much.
Yeah, this is the best way to describe it. But also the boil situation, you just have a bag of food in front of you, and you just reach in and grab whatever you can. We did the mussels, snow crab, shrimp, and corn, potatoes, and the crawfish. I was stoked.
Yeah.
I ate my fill, that's for sure. And then we had Cold Stone to top it all off.
It's been so long since I've been to a Cold Stone Creamery.
Yeah.
And I was mentioning because it was right next to a Regal Cinemas, which
sadly is closed.
It was closed, but the last time I went to a Cold Stone Creamery was also right next to a Regal Cinemas.
Let's just specify, not closed, out of business.
Yeah.
Like they had shut it down and they're pulling stuff out of the building.
Yeah.
Not just closed because they're not open.
So good material highlights. Anything else? Any seminars take you by storm?
I realized that the seminars that I wanted to see, I've already seen on YouTube, because a lot of the guys that were doing the talking points and seminars also have YouTube channels where they share all that information. And I realized that the symposium that I want to see about building in coastal climates, because that's typically where I'm located. I've already watched all of his stuff. I've consumed all of his media. I don't think I can glean anything new. The one thing that I was stoked about, another supplier gave me replacement pads just showing up instead of having to order these online. These are for a zip wall system. This is the part that goes up against the ceiling, and this holds plastic with spring-loaded tension rods, so you can kind of cordon off an area that's going to be collecting a lot of dust. It kind of mitigates a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I had lost one and broke another. And this chick, I said, yeah, you know, the only product I'm really interested in is new pads, because I have your system and I love your system. It's great. I use it all the time. I'm missing pads. She's like, well, hold on a second. She's at this little booth right at the front of the booth, the trade show spot that they're in. She just reaches in a drawer and pulls out 2 and hands them to me.
Nice.
So here's some replacements for free. I'm going to have to order those online. That's great product right there. Quick zip system at Home Depot and also online. Just to plug that a bit, because it works great if you know how to use it right. So there's just a learning curve.
Well, I mean, the real plug is ProConfix. That's where we find you.
ProConfix is where you find me on YouTube. I've got very little out there because it's a lot to produce these videos.
What's the email address if someone can't wait for you to remodel their home?
ProConfix@gmail.com, and I will get you on the schedule, and it'll probably be 6 to 10 months out because I'm that busy.
It's worth it.
It's worth the wait.
Sometimes lucky is a month or 2 out. I don't know. Bro, have you ever been 6 to 10 months out with your work? I feel like it's usually a couple, 3 months out that I've heard, but it's possible.
Yeah.
I don't know. Guys are in demand.
Yeah, dude. It's good to be busy. And
Thanks, man.
Supply and demand, man.
Yeah.
You know, you're busy, that you should probably hire some more people, but just kind of waiting things out, seeing where the economy goes. I know you had a hell of a week.
I did.
I'm glad I was down here to kind of support you emotionally, but there's only so much I can do because I can't give you a new job if you wanted one.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. My week sucked. For the last 6 weeks, where I work over at Redacted, we have known that there were some layoffs coming, and it didn't really strike most of us how hard those would hit until basically the guidance for our earnings call to the public investors said that they were essentially going to be paying people severances deep into next quarter, which that's a lot to provide guidance publicly on.
Yeah.
And it was a significant amount of the workforce was laid off. And I survived the layoff, but have no idea what's coming basically this next week.
Yeah.
So it's been a pretty interesting emotional ride. Quickly, Lucky says you guys chose the right night to have my death meal. What is your death meal?
Oh, shellfish.
Oh, shellfish. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, totally. Yeah, we had talked about going up there with Chris and them. Yeah. And I'm like, pretty sure Lucky's
allergic.
Badly allergic to shellfish. So this might not, we may need to wait till he's gone. Probably a good thing. Because we brought home leftovers, and if you're breathing in those vapors, Jesus.
It's touching everything in the fridge.
Yeah. But like,
smell.
It's one of those things, man, where, you know, the day the layoffs happened was my 12-year anniversary at Redacted. And
to the day, correct?
To the day. And it's really, really difficult to put into perspective how much you've given to your job until you're faced with having to find another one.
Yeah.
And you kind of look back at all the places that Redacted has taken me in my career and stuff, and then how long I've been there with the things that I've been able to accomplish. And if I was let go, it would be pretty easy to hold my head up high and be proud of a lot of the work that was done. And if I not let go, which turned out to be the case, I'm grateful at least that I can continue making house payments, right? Like that's first and foremost. But secondarily, like trying to understand now what is the scope of my work?
And that's still in the air, correct?
And it's still in the air. Like I lost my direct boss, and 99% of all 5 of the major pieces of like bodies of work that I was working on through the end of this year, all 5 of them
are gone.
Every single support mechanism around all 5 of those are gone. you know.
It's a whirlwind of change all at once.
Yeah.
On top of the emotional roller coaster leading up to it of what do I have to do to survive if the worst happens?
You know, and then like up to 4 months, he says, okay, cool. That's how long he's booked out. That's insane.
That's rad. I can believe it, seeing his work.
Yeah. But then like having to talk to people that I hired a decade ago, you know, talk to people that were mentors of mine that are like, hey man, can I use you as a reference and stuff? Like, it's surreal. And a lot of it hasn't sunk in, but
are you still in shock?
Kind of, like, you know, the stages of grief where it's like ultra sadness and then rage, pissed off, and like you kind of go through it. Some of us that you know that still work at Redacted are definitely like tangibly going through that, where you can kind of see it in real time.
The outlets, it comes out of the three of you in different ways. But
yeah.
I see it.
I've been logically as pragmatic as I can be without like going ultra emotional about that stuff. But it's huge. Like, there's the nature in which I would lose quite a bit of a nest egg that has been built up is very prominent when you're faced with a layoff, because, you know, unmatured stock options and
they're just hanging out there
RSUs
waiting.
and stuff, those all go back to the house, you know. So it's like you could kind of pay yourself back for laying off a ton of people, but then you realize like a lot of these people are, you know, like in one case, one of my coworkers that I talked to for a couple of hours after all this went down, like just had another kid, you know, just bought a house last year. So there's a lot of real emotions that I still haven't like figured out or gone through. And I realize when times are in a piece of downturn, macroeconomically speaking, it's good to trim off some jobs that you could probably do without.
Absolutely.
So like the what makes perfect sense, but the why and the how are still mysterious to everyone that remains.
In the who's.
And the who, like, it kind of sucks that, like, well, the who's definitely been identified, but it sucks that those had all been culled without much rhyme or reason based on the work that they were in charge of or supporting or creating.
Or their overall performance, too, because it wasn't performance-based.
Performance didn't have anything to do with it either, which is also like...
That chaps my ass, because I'm all about, you know, if someone's dicking the dog and really sucking at their job, can their ass, especially if they've had opportunities to correct.
Yes.
You just get rid of it.
And there are a few people that remain that were obviously on their way out the door.
Yeah.
And now they get a free reset.
Right.
On all the reasons that they were on their way out the door.
And get to keep sucking.
And yeah, they kind of get a reset button. They get to start over doing the same old, and prolonging whatever it is they're prolonging. But it's really hard to put into words. You know, emotionally speaking, it's like I'm stable, but I'm frustrated at a lot of the I don't know what's going to happen next, specific to my line of work, which seems like it's up in the air again.
Yeah.
We don't have an identified team. People for me to lead, or who my leader is going to be, is not identified. And I feel like that should have been done long before they started cutting jobs.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, we think this is at least
a structure ready to go.
Yeah, like this is at least a loose org structure.
Yeah.
Nothing. You know? And so that to me is infuriating, because it makes it feel like it was roulette for all the jobs that were cut and stuff like that. And I realize there's probably some modicum of directionally accurate reasoning behind why they did what they did and how they did it.
You think they used AI to fire these people?
I mean, there's word around the water cooler in some circles that, you know, oh, AI was used for this, but no, I don't believe that. What I believe is...
Just curious.
Yeah, it's a good question, though, because that was brought up.
Okay.
Definitely was brought up by some teams that were being told they were getting let go and stuff. I think what it was is... You know, I might have mentioned on the pod, but the two principal ways you lay off in a company like mine, one is you bring in a consultancy group and they get their fingers in every piece of the operations and finances and strategy and everything, and then they basically build a very expensive PowerPoint presentation and come back and say, you know, drop prices here, cut all of these departments, they're unnecessary, doesn't matter who's in them or not, and you know, go forth and and prosper and be valuable. And by the way, please pay us our $8 to $10 million for this consultancy project, for this big PowerPoint presentation. And a lot of executives tend to hide behind that kind of an action because it's like, well, it was a third-party consultancy.
They're the Axeman.
We were moving again, along with the best business minds in the industry to help shape where we went. Sorry,
right?
Not our fault. We're doing the best we can to save shareholder value or whatever. The second is performance-based. Hey, man, we need. This is pretty redundant what you do, and
Tell
or
me
there's
the 5 things you did last week.
Yeah, tell me the 5 things you did last week. And I think this was the former. I think this has the fingerprints of. I actually know more than I'm going to talk about, but this has the fingerprints of a consultancy group. Kind of just with a broadsword, not a scalpel. And I think what chaps my ass about all this, going through it in real time, and this is not the first time, but this is definitely a very significant time. What chaps my ass about this is not knowing what the direction is until after those people are gone, and then we get to hear from senior leadership that says, well, now that it's just us in the room, let's tell you what we're really up to for the next year and a half, 2 years, 5 years, whatever their big reveal plan is.
We're going to the moon.
And because they're not going to take any responsibility for it, they're not going to answer a direct question.
Oh, God, no.
They're going to say, here's a poll, fill it out, ask questions that we will filter through and choose which ones we want to answer during the big all hands meeting when you get to learn about us being very sorry for what we did and, really how unfortunate and what a tough decision it was to make the cuts that we did. But it's because we have this big strategy that we need to roll out. And so now that we're all here, let's fucking move on together. But they're not going to answer any questions.
Did they overhire during COVID?
Big time. This needed to happen, but not to the degree that it did.
Okay. So it was a severe overcorrection.
So I'll tell you, going back in time a little bit, a big overcorrection. Financially, we've been suffering for a few quarters in a row because of our last senior leader at the very top that was making dog shit decisions and driving this into the ground.
Right.
So this might not be an overcorrection. It might be a one-to-one value drag where it's like, sick, we need to make back because we're bleeding, right? But to the overhire question, the answer is yes, and there's some nuance to it. In 2017 or 18, there was a big one of these.
Oh, yeah.
And it was brutal, the way it was done. It was brutal because essentially what happened, everybody showed up to work. The corporate office had a few floors that were cordoned off with security guards posted at the floor entrances and a bunch of black curtains set up for makeshift meeting rooms. And nobody would let people walk down those particular hallways no matter what. And it was like, is there a special event going on? Yeah. Is there a politician in there? We don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Unveiling something? And
it took 20 minutes for us to figure out what was happening because people would get an email that has a 15-minute meeting on the calendar with their HR representative and their direct manager.
And they'd walk straight down to that.
And they would have to go down and figure out which one of these makeshift rooms was whatever. And a security guard that was posted there would help them find the right one. And they would sit down and learn that they lost their job right then and there and they were about to be walked out of the building. And so people would go to this meeting and never come back. And then they would start texting people that were still in the building like, oh my God, they're firing everybody. You know what I mean? And it was so immature the way that was handled.
Did anybody knock the HR people out?
There was a lot of snap reaction and physical, there was a potential for physical altercations on a couple of times.
Security guards.
Yeah, but I mean, so when you're a boss like that, and at the time I was, and I didn't know this was coming, but you're walking your own people out the door, trying to talk to them and figure out what they said and what's going on. They don't believe a word you said.
Oh yeah, they think you're
just placating and being the world's best actor. And yeah, a couple of them squared off with me. It was like, "Fuck you, this is your." I'm not kidding. It was brutal. And they
put you in that position by how they did the whole situation.
Yeah, and by the end of that day, my entire department was erased from existence. And the only person that was kept was me. So even the people that learn about whether or not, I lost my job that day or not. Still didn't believe a word I said.
Right.
Because I'm still employed.
Yeah, you're the bad guy at this point.
100%.
You're still part of their team.
So I go to my leadership of the day, and mind you, this is just before the pandemic by a year and a half or so. And I'm just like, what is going on? And then they reveal massive layoffs. They're happening in progress. As you're clearly aware by now, you're not going anywhere. But we don't know what we're going to do with you. And I was like, okay. So they're like, well, what we want is you to talk to these 2 other leaders on Monday, and they'll find stuff for you to do. And I was like, not the job I applied for. I did not apply and spend tens of thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours to train in specialty disciplines to come to work so I can ask somebody what they would like me to do that day.
Yeah.
That's not the job I applied for. So I was like, well, with not having a future in mind and you guys being very cavalier with the fact that I'm not cut but still have no idea what you're going to do with me, I'm going to look internally for a different role. Found one, spent the last 5 years there until I took this role about a year ago. So this has happened before. I've lived through this once before. It was vile, the way that this was executed. At least this time around, we had 6 weeks notice that stuff was coming. We just didn't know how big or who, right up even through
They gave you
end.
the heads up, by the way, something's going to happen.
Oh, no, they flat out said layoffs are coming.
Yeah.
And here's the parts of the company that need to be worried about that, of which I'm a part of, right?
Right.
And
At least they didn't keep everybody in the dark and just randomly.
this was, to that end, handled way more maturely than the first one.
That's what I'm thinking,
yeah,
yeah.
totally. So, like, credit where it's due, they executed on a plan, but it's not revealed to anybody left why they did it and what we're supposed to do or expected now to do with 25% of the workforce being gone.
Yeah.
Because we're already running
more
a
with less.
pretty skeleton crew.
And now you get to do more with less.
Right, which is a guarantee at this point. That's a foregone conclusion. But I still haven't answered your question. Your question was, did they overhire? Sure. Since that first layoff, a lot of stuff changed. We had a new CEO come in, a bunch of new senior leaders. A lot of people started executing on new plans that required big funding that was approved through channels, and suddenly a lot of projects were spun up around these different initiatives. And I have a pretty broad viewpoint to one particular section of our company, but not all of them. And this was occurring everywhere.
Across the board, not just yours.
Yeah, from the marketing and sales side of my business to the supply chain and logistics side to the technology pieces to everywhere else.
Was it, we have a bunch of cash, we need to spend it somewhere, let's do it on labor?
No, it was a promise of, if we execute on this new leader strategy in this way and spend the money investing in these parts, pieces, technologies, initiatives, sales opportunity, marketing opportunity types of things, then we think there's going to be a decent enough yield. So everyone approved the budget and they started spending. Well, in order to execute on that, you need to start hiring a bunch of staff. The problem is they didn't really have good definitive beginning and ending dates, and a lot of those strategies weren't well thought out. So when you leave it to middle management to hire staff
That snowballed
en masse,
quickly.
they hire all their homies and a bunch of frivolous job titles. Well, we need somebody like this to do this because, we're going full steam ahead, and, senior leadership wants this done yesterday like they always do.
So instead of being strategic about it, they just throw labor at it like they're a garbage
and they
company.
continue to throw money at stuff. And suddenly you've got all these bloated different areas of personnel. And again, this is one viewpoint of a broad spectrum of the company that I get to see, and there's way more of it on other spots.
Way more waste elsewhere.
Yeah, lots and lots. But at that point, you can kind of see, all right, well, fuck, man, over time, and the pandemic has happened by now, to get anything done, I now have to go through 55 new different people, because you're a stakeholder and you're reliant on this, and you're the project lead for that, and you're the budget person for this. And all these people have to coalesce into a room to get an idea on to the next stage or to get something across the finish line or whatever. And you realize pretty quickly when you wake up and look around the room, this is too many fucking people. Well, now none of these initiatives we spent on seem to be working very well. And senior leadership isn't really turning a whole bunch of holistic shareholder value long enough to the point that that person needs to be replaced. So new person comes in and goes, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
So I knew some trimming needed to be done, but to the degree that this has happened, this is pretty unprecedented, right? This is a big deal.
Yeah.
And so very, very difficult to know this is coming, see how it could have been avoided, but not know why or where we're going is the part that pisses me off.
Okay.
Because when people, especially senior leaders, talk about, changing the culture and needing to reinvest in the culture and make this more of a culture thing. And you guys, if you work in a big company and you hear these words, take this to heart. If that same leader immediately goes off the reservation to a consultancy group to figure out what to do about it, they don't give a fuck about the culture.
Right.
Because the people that know the culture are the people that have been there for
decades,
10, 20, 30, 40 fucking years.
Right.
And
Ask
it's
the
like,
people that have been in the
why
trenches.
don't you talk to them? Try.
Yeah.
Just try them out. See what they have to say.
Ask them who needs to be let go.
Yeah, and if it's
I guarantee you they know.
Yeah, and if it's a bunch of slapdicks that are doing nothing,
Yep.
that are just like, oh, the most important person in the company from a business perspective wants to hear my opinion on what things could be done for the culture, and I use this as a platform to tell them about why I don't like my job or how much my boss sucks or whatever. All right, lesson learned. You tried, now go hire a consultancy group. But the fact that a lot of people have very good ideas and care very deeply about the success of the company over at Redacted where I work,
Yeah.
it feels like a betrayal. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It feels like, well, you've got a lot of talent. You pay a lot of fucking money
Betrayal
to.
of the culture.
And you trust us enough to execute business on your behalf. Perhaps we also care a modicum, little bit about the culture of the brand in which we represent.
And rely on for income.
Maybe you could try us out, see what you think.
Yeah.
And that's never the case. And so then when you feed me a line after the fact, you've done the slaughter about how much you're reinvesting in the culture or changing and broadening the culture, it's bullshit. It's like, well, culture doesn't mean consultancy group.
Yeah.
That's a shroud of business speak, and you get to hide
jargon.
behind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Lucky
Double
says
speak.
the Zap Brannigan military strategy, 100%. And it's painful because, as a guy whose principal function is to think about strategy in the role that I have.
Do you see the absolute failure above you?
On a bunch of different levels too. Like on the one hand, when you have bloated middle management and they make really bad decisions and they can't execute on it, and then they turn around and hand it to a bunch of individual contributors, managers, smaller teams, whatever, and you're supposed to spin straw into gold in a very short order to make something work, even though it's not maybe the right thing to do. The only thing that accomplishes is it emboldens middle management to continue to make dog shit decisions because they get bailed out.
By all the people underneath them.
Correct.
Yeah.
And when it comes time to expand on something else, it's those very people that get moved on to the next thing, and you inherit somebody else, and you have to start all over again because they want to make their mark on whatever it is because they're
same
new.
Cycle.
And it is cyclical.
Yeah.
And the most painful part of that from a strategy perspective is that's where the culture starts to fracture on everyone understanding and working toward the same goal. Yeah. Because you are trained by your direct management to keep things very close to the vest, to do things your way. All right, you're gonna get a new job in 2 to 5 years, man. Like whatever. Okay, let's do this big thing you want, and then you're gonna move on, and we're still gonna be
in the trenches,
shoveling shit out of the pig pen, right? And I'm in that middle management stack, but not in a position where I have like a team of folks that I have to, care about their career as well as mine at this point and stuff. But the strategy part of it, I get to see all this stuff, and I try to make recommendations on how we might be able to pan against some of this stuff through proper planning, better education and training for the teams, the right investments in technology to help support that stuff. And oftentimes when you have a real high attrition rate with the people you have to present these ideas to, I mean, it's a coin flip on whether somebody gives a fuck about all the time and effort you spent for it. And you can do one of two things. You can get bitter about it, or you can say, well, I'm like Evel Knievel. I get paid for the attempt, right?
Yeah.
I still got paid for the research I did. I still fought a good fight, brought a good case to you. And if you don't give 2 squirts of piss about what I just said, all right, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, what else do you want me to focus on? You know, that's not my sole responsibility, but it's my principal function. It's my main responsibility. And it hurts because you can see a lot of the stuff coming and how easily it could have been avoided if people would take a little care and delicacy, try the scalpel before you try the broadsword.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when you're trying to increase holistic shareholder value like that, you need the broadsword, baby. And I just lived through probably the most vicious layoff cycle at Redacted that there has ever been. That's arguable.
Yeah.
But certainly in my career.
Rough,
and
man.
I don't know how to be, because I don't know what I'm facing day after tomorrow.
So much unknown.
Yeah. You know, and that sucks, because I do know one thing. I will be picking up the slack for 6 or 7 people
That aren't there
to get
anymore.
what needs to get done, that has an open contract attached to it, or a budget that's being spent on it and stuff. That has to get done. And I am still here. So it's incumbent upon me as a responsible manager for this organization to get it the fuck done. And that's hard, because that's going to be long nights and weekends coming up.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
Well,
That's for sure.
I'm glad you're still there.
Yeah. Hey, cheers to that. I can still make my house payment.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, fuck.
House.
What a zoo. We should start the podcast now. That was my week.
Yeah.
That was my week.
Yeehaw.
Yeah. I don't know. What else, man? What else is new? It's been pretty crazy, but
Yeah, no, it's been a blast. I love coming down here every year, and then, you know, going to what doesn't really exist in Washington State anymore, and they're doing their damnedest to make sure I'm essentially not welcome in my state based off of what I own.
this is not me shitting on Washington. I
Yeah.
told you guys I'd try and pump the brakes.
This is a local. I get to talk about my own hometown.
In defense of the genre.
In defense of the genre, I get to talk about it myself.
Yeah.
Who currently is a resident. We got to go to Freedom Firearms and see stuff that I can't see up there anymore. Like, people just don't have those items on the shelf in Washington State. You can get, I believe, a bolt action under 10 rounds and pistols with magazines under 10, shotguns. That's pretty much all that is on the shelves.
So can you have a semi-automatic weapon in Washington now or not?
I don't believe you're allowed to have a AR platform.
No, I know that's off the table.
Right,
and I
but
know
so you can get a Mini 14.
anything over 10 rounds I know is also off the table.
Right,
but-
anything over 10 rounds. So I believe you can get like a Mini 14 semi-automatic.
Okay. Or like a 22 semi-automatic is still okay?
I think so. That I don't look into because I don't give a shit about 22s.
All right, just to set the tone.
Yeah.
Washington State is still in America, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's just crazy. This stuff is. I'm saying this because there's 5 other House bills. If you are interested in Washington State gun law, watch Washington Gun Law with William T. Kirk. He's amazing. He does a great job of filling in. We the People. That guy does a great job. And then
I've watched a lot of his content.
Undivided. That's another one. Krause, I believe is her name. I watch all 3 of those on a fairly regular basis when I feel like depressing myself, because it's always bad news on there. There's never good news that comes out of these, but a lot of the gun laws have changed so much so that I don't feel like I'm at home in my own state. Not just based off of that, but other issues with the political landscape there. The freedom of walking into a gun store and seeing all the stuff that I can enjoy as a hobby, as an enthusiast, you know, I feel it's my God-given right to go in there based off the Constitution and what it says to go in there and find something that I like and go take it to the range after my waiting period and enjoy shooting at a target downrange.
So 2 things. First, not only is Freedom have those things, but it is also like the Gucciest, coolest versions of those things that you could find where you're like, well, fuck, who sells that? Because mostly it's like your dad's favorite shotgun brand, Ruger. There's some Springfield stuff, and maybe they're carrying Glock. Like,
oh, and there's some guns in the,
this store's like.
There's some gun stores where you're like, why are they even carrying this? Why is this something they brought in as a display item and they've got it for sale?
Yeah.
Because I don't know anybody out of all the people I know that would buy this item and they have it on the shelf. Why? No, this gun store is complete opposite. It's like I see something for everybody, and the majority of my friends, they would walk in there and have the same look on their face and just awe and disbelief with all the fun items that they have, all the stuff that I want to
and I mean, great location for it, because one, the state is what it is with the rules that are in place, which is great. Two, lots of police presence. Three, nearby Air Force Base. You know, so you're going to have a lot of buzz about some of the stuff that they sell anyway. Not uncommon that somebody would spend the money that, you know, on that, like that $10,000 saw that they had. And,
or the Night Force scope. That scope was almost $4,000.
Yeah, $4,000 or $5,000 piece of glass. It's a nice piece of glass.
Holding 2 MP5s.
Oh, we got some great photos.
That total $10,000 between the two of them. Yeah,
you look like an advertisement photo of like, if you bought your husband a gun for Christmas, this is how happy he'll be. It was just this beaming smile where it's like, I found my home. They're great pictures. But the second thing though, like, just curious, do you think we have misinterpreted the Second Amendment the whole time, and the right to bear arms just means we have a right to wear sleeveless T-shirts and bear arms? Like, is that they can be bear arms?
I sure hope it doesn't come to that argument in the Supreme Court, but we'll see. Where Bonta v. Bruin has already been argued.
Thankfully, there's some ironclad context around that question, but yes. No, man, I'm stoked you got to go. Like, it is like,
I want to shoot all of them too.
Yeah, it's like my candy store for sure. I love that place. And the guys are cool.
If I had $1 million, I'd probably be able to buy half of that store. And still not have enough money for the rest of it.
Well, and good news, they bought a second location. They took over a location. There used to be something else. And this one is an actual gun range as well as a lobby store and stuff like that too, which is pretty slick. So they're going to have some stuff.
I dig it. It's one of the best parts of coming down here. Not that we don't have gun ranges up in Washington State, but it's like, if you're not grandfathered in with what you've already purchased, you're kind of SOL. And I know a few people that have already, I already know a handful of people that have left, with that being one of the reasons. I had some clients actually move. They had lived there all their lives, and they moved to Texas to get out of the repressive laws that they're trying to implement there.
Specific to the 2A side of things?
Yes, specific to the 2A side of things. Also, just the crime rate through the roof.
Well, everything's bad. Like,
everything.
I oversimplify my explanation when people ask why I moved from there to...
Yeah, it's just so much to go into.
It's like, well, it's the 3 Ps. I didn't like the people, the price tag, or the politics, and I kind of leave it at that.
I feel like if you break down exactly what's going on up there, it's overwhelming, and people think you're just being a whiner or complaining.
Right.
That's the look I've seen on people's faces when I'm trying to break it down.
Yeah, like, oh, you're just whining. You're just zeroing in on the fact that you don't like the state, and I get to hear about it now.
There's a litany of issues with that state and how the legislature's going.
I mean, I had that conversation so many fucking times, dude, that I did boil it down to the 3 Ps. Like, nah, it's the people, the price tag, and the politics.
Yeah, and you get so exhausted trying to explain yourself and all the legitimate legal issues that are going on. People just, they kind of glass over, and they don't want to hear all the details. It's like, this can happen in other states too. It is happening in other states.
Very much.
And Washington learned from California. Oregon learned from California. You know, and it's a trickle-down effect with the coastal states. They're going to do what they want to do, and they just get to live high and free of any Supreme Court rulings. So it blows my mind that but to each their own, you know. At this point, I'm kind of done fighting for my state. I feel like I've voted a certain way all of my life that I've been able to vote, and it's slowly changed into a state that I don't want to be a part of anymore. I don't want to pay any more money than I have to into that state, and I think it's time for me to just move and change my scenery and live in a place that I feel more politically aligned with.
And no big surprise to the people that are tuning into the pod here. Like we've Lucky and I have both been saying this for a long time. Like our recommendation is just go. At some point you got to go. And Lucky it was very interesting. It wasn't for this podcast. I interviewed Lucky a couple of years ago. It was before I moved here. So it was probably 5 or 6 years ago. I went up and I did an expo piece for him, all audio in his basement. Talking about, I wanted to basically do an expo for my other pod that I was doing back in the day. And he had this prophecy that was pretty much spot on
with what's happened right now,
with what's going on regarding Seattle. And there was a lot of stuff that was still fresh. Like we were still in the pandemic piece. There's a lot going on, which you guys have now heard if you listen to the last couple of episodes about sort of him reliving what happened with the business and things like that from his perspective, right?
And I have feels with that because I went through a very small iota of what he went through with my own small business. So,
and basically the gist of it, and I mean, I'll let him recap it probably Tuesday when we hook back up for our regular show. But what was very precise about what he said is he basically compared the future state of Seattle and probably Washington State to Detroit
Seattle,
and Michigan.
As Seattle goes, Washington goes.
Yeah.
Because Seattle controls everything for that state with the voting populace there.
Yeah, and the essential premise was basically you're going to have all of this legislation come pouring in from a straight line political viewpoint. It's going to absolutely annihilate the middle class to the point where you're going to have
small business owners
and everybody, and it's happening.
Yeah,
like 49% of the small businesses from 5 years ago are completely gone. Mm-hmm. That's 1 percentage point away from every other business in Washington. Local business is gone.
One of my favorite gun stores, when they were talking about passing one law changing how they were supposed to operate their gun store, and it was a bunch of legislation about bars on windows, cameras on doors.
And that's restaurant and services sector, by the way, where that statistic comes from. Sorry, go ahead.
I went to stop in to see what guns they had on the shelf because it's a pawn shop, and it's an old one that Kurt Cobain used to go to. It's been around for a very long time. Doors were barred, and it said for sale. I was like, for sale? It's still got tools out front. Like it's like a pawn shop ready to be open for business, and it says the business is for sale. I was like, no way. So I check online. It's not just that. It's also a multitude of other properties. This the owner of that and all of his other properties. He just wants to get the hell out of Dodge because of that.
Yeah.
And there's a small business that wasn't put out of business, deciding to close before it gets to the point where he's put out of business.
Striking while the iron's hot.
Correct.
Yeah.
Trying to be ahead of the curve.
His argument essentially was in the foreseeable future, you're going to have the upper class, the upper echelon of like whatever's left, and they're essentially going to wake up one day and be like, well, no one's here to like pull my car around front, and there's like nobody here to like do the groundskeeping, and what the fuck? And it's like, yeah, all the middle class can be completely wiped out. So you have like absolute poverty and then whatever's left for the upper echelon.
Yeah. And
then you guys are going to have to move on and infect some other area because it's going to be a complete wash, which is quintessentially what happened in Motor City.
And they just seem to be able to get all the votes.
Well, and Michigan hasn't really recovered from that, to be honest, either.
Yeah.
But when you have the same political side, not only feeding the narrative that he basically prophesized, but they're also saying, hey, it's cool if you're unhoused, not homeless, by the way, or you're on drugs or you're turning to whatever, we're not going to prosecute. We're going to catch and release. We're going to put you back on the street. We're going to keep pumping tax dollars from the people that are left over suffering and paying for this into programs that don't fucking work.
Yeah.
And he was right. Like I saw about a year before that, and I kind of came to it honestly, but I saw a chalk outline forming around that city where I was like, I've got to get the fuck out of here.
It was 100% obvious to me when they did the documentary Seattle is Dying.
Mm-hmm. When was that released?
Oh, God.
17, 18?
I have to Google that real quick.
It was before the pandemic though, right?
Right before.
Yeah.
And I feel like the pandemic just set it into a death spiral.
Pretty much. A lot has not recovered since then. So, yeah, it's I don't know. We talked about that on the pod pretty much at length, and I eventually just said, I don't think you're giving up or losing or
2019, man.
19 or anything. I think at this point it's okay to just be like, I'm out.
Yeah.
For what it's worth.
The fact that I've put my time in and I've seen this state change so much, born and raised there, and you see something change so much that you don't even recognize it anymore.
Yeah.
Like there was a sweet spot when I thought things were really turning around. It'd be 2012, 2013.
Mm-hmm.
The downtown Seattle corridor was amazing. They had all the new buildings going up, all the new tech people moving in. It was gentrifying a lot of the rougher areas of downtown Seattle that had been forgotten about.
Yeah.
And just left to rot since all the industries had left over the last couple decades. Tacoma was getting cleaner,
Yeah.
and everything was kind of turning around and ready on the upswing. And the trajectory was going the right way. And then I don't know if it was all the tech workers that moved in, but I feel like there was something that just kind of switched right before leading up to the pandemic. Mm-hmm. It was like, oh, okay, this thing's kind of gone off the rails. This was getting better, but now it looks like it's about to get worse.
Yeah.
And it's like the straw that broke the camel's back with COVID and them just letting them have the free lockdown area of Chaz Chop.
I started to see a lot of the stuff with how they were pulling funding to get what they wanted done, no matter how you voted for it.
Yeah. Oh, the car tabs. Oh,
the Deepwater Tunnel project.
Yeah.
I mean, that was voted down 6 straight times.
And they decided to just...
And they started pulling funding back when Christine Gregoire was in she's a congresswoman, right?
I still question her election. I voted for Dino.
But it's like, so you're going to take all this money from the state level to bolster a project that the city, the county, and every constituent in each district said fuck off.
Said no.
6 straight times
we don't
they
want
said
this.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
And you're going to pull it from the state. Oh, I can just imagine how excited the residents of Spokane are going to be when they're going to have to live through continued potholes after big snowfalls and plowing, because all that state money went to dig a big fucking hole in the Alaska Way Viaduct.
Yeah.
So that you could, guess what, open a bypass that you're going to toll everybody that runs the 99 on.
Oh, and I guess there's some legislation just went through because there were some people that didn't get enough pay from prevailing wages.
I'm sure.
So now there's a bunch of people that work on that tunnel that are getting back pay, and good for them that they're getting the money deserved. But there's just some more spend from a budget deficit of $12 billion already, a shortfall of $12 billion.
That's insane.
Still paying. And who was our last governor? Who was the governor before that? Why do we have a deficit? A shortfall. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was he spending it all on? Where did the money go? How are you short so much given the amount of revenue that we have?
Where is your money in Washington? Where did it go?
Where did it go?
Where did it go?
Oh, we could talk about...
Because I remember...
we could talk about the club I mentioned
I was
earlier.
furious with that. We've heard me bitch about this on the pod, so I'll be brief. But I was like, hey, I want to buy apple juice, and that qualifies as a sugar tax?
Yeah.
Well, where the fuck is this money going?
Yeah.
Clearly not to the education that you guys said that it was going to go to.
Right.
What the fuck? We're allergic to paper now, and it's bad for trees and stuff, so we're going to force you to use plastic. Way better alternative.
Yeah.
So all that money is going to go away, and then you're going to get taxed extra, plus they're going to charge you per bag if you use paper while supplies last.
And then...
where did that money go?
Hold on. And then you pull the plastic straws and force us into using paper straws, but take the paper bags away and give us plastic bags.
Yeah. Look at how much we've done for...
What the fuck?
Look at how much we've done to keep the earth green from Seattle's perspective by taking plastic straws wrapped in paper away and providing paper straws wrapped in plastic.
And providing needles for junkies. Great job.
And it's like, look, dude, at the end of the day, where is this fucking money going?
Yeah.
And I started to chase that stuff down. Like, look, the bag tax is gone, and now you're charging for plastic because I'm not forced into buying your $13 recycle bag that you're getting from some subsidiary company locally made that's owned by somebody on the fucking city council.
Yeah, right.
Awesome. Great find.
Yeah.
So you got that. You got the bag tax, sugar tax, Deepwater Tunnel stuff, toll booths coming up. And now with this deficit on the rise, my fear is for you all left over is you're going to find brand new creative ways to tax the living fuck out of you guys in some other fashion.
They want to tax us based off the miles driven.
Never mind the fact, this is me on a soapbox. I told you I'd be brief, I lied. Never mind the fact that the new minimum wage hike went in for 2025 at the beginning of this year. And it's
What
now,
is the minimum wage for Seattle right
I believe it's $20. And you wonder why you get the most mid hamburger of your life at one of the 51% of the restaurants that used to be there 5 years ago that remain today. And you're like, wow, I get to pay $50 for a hamburger and fries because it took you 40 plus to pay the guy to cook it and the other guy to walk it out to my table. What the fuck are we doing?
now? $20.76 an hour as of January 1st, 2025.
Almost $21 an hour.
And so the one thing that I have a friend that mentioned years ago, that people demanding a livable wage from a McDonald's is a joke. It was McDonald's was never supposed to be a livable wage. Yeah, I'll take another.
They can still hear me, and I can keep talking to you.
Yeah, so McDonald's was supposed to be a stopgap. It's something for high school students, low-income earners, because there's people out there that just that's the best they can do, and props to them. But it was supposed to be a stopgap to get onto another job, something that pays better. And instead, that's become a job that you think you can earn a living for a house on. I think that's just, it's asinine that we've gotten that far. But I also believe there's the escalation of accreditation where the degrees just aren't worth, I'll take the orange again. That was really good. Escalation of accreditation where you've reduced the value of a degree and also drastically increased the cost. Both of us degree holders, it's insane to think about the amount of money it costs, but also how few people got degrees in the 50s and 60s versus what's happened now in 2010s, 2020s, how much tuition is and what your return on investment is. Your return on investment for a 4-year degree is negligible at best, especially if you get underwater basket weaving as your major. But I'm an international business major, economics minor.
You mean the educational programs are not one-to-one what they used to be to help bolster trade, to help further the American economy, when instead you get lesbian dance theory and underwater basket weaving?
Yeah.
Holy shit!
My mind is blown that didn't work. That you can't make a living wage off of knowing how to weave baskets underwater.
Not that I have a strong opinion about that.
Yeah. No, not at all.
It's wild.
Me neither. All of that, I kind of lost my train of thought on that. No,
I do that to everyone.
Yeah,
I apologize.
I lost my train of thought on that.
Anyway, a livable wage at McDonald's was never meant to be, you can retire on that fund.
You're raising the wage to force us to pay for a $30 hamburger meal at McDonald's so they can't even afford a house because of the increase of cost in Seattle. Yeah. So they're affording a very small apartment or living on the outskirts somewhere else because they can't even afford living in Seattle proper. They're living in a suburb. They're living in Rainier, White Center, that kind of thing. It just, the economics of it just doesn't add up, man.
It doesn't. And
they keep fighting and pushing this narrative and pushing this objective and this whole ideology that this is going to fix things by raising wages. That's not how you do it, man.
And they know that it doesn't. That's the problem. But it's
just breaking down the middle class.
Towing the company line to continue feeding into the narrative.
Yeah.
But that's the political backboard that's forcing exactly what Lucky said would happen 5 or 6 years ago during that interview.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No one wants to listen to, if I were to get up in City Hall, my city's pretty good, but the rest of the state, if I was to go to Olympia, no one's going to listen to me. I'm just the wrong side of the aisle for anybody to want to hear what I have to say.
Yep.
It's sad to be just voted out of my own state.
You're basically only good enough to get taxed at that point. So what do you think is best for you? I know what needs to happen to fix what's wrong, and I know that it won't.
Yeah.
So I'm not even going to ask that. I think you have the answer too. But what's next for you personally?
For me, life is short, and I don't want to spend my life fighting what I see as a losing battle based off of how the elections have gone the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And how much the political and social landscape has changed up there. I don't feel like I belong there. I definitely want to move down here or Texas, someplace a little more in line. And also,
Texas is great.
I want to change a climate too. I'm burned out on all the rain. I've lived there all my life, and being able to see.
How dare you?
I've seen how hot it is down here. I've seen how hot it is and humid it is in Texas. I want to change, just for a change of scenery. You know, I love the summers in Washington is absolutely beautiful.
They are.
On the water.
I'll give you that.
Going to the coastline in the middle of summer, it's a
There's
blast.
probably nowhere on earth that has a better summer window than Seattle. It's awesome.
Right.
It's really awesome.
And that's when everybody gets out and doing what everybody was doing on was it March? It was still February when we were out, but there's a whole street of people milling around and hanging out and having a good time on a Friday night. And it's the middle of March, where that wouldn't happen in Seattle or Tacoma, just because there's some busy restaurants, but it's not a whole nightlife thing. It's usually you go out, eat, have a couple beers, and go home, or maybe go to another bar and have another beer. But you're just going from one indoor to indoor, just kind of like you do here in the summertime, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Indoor to indoor, but
or you live for the night.
Yeah.
You know, which is kind of what the city was designed around.
Yeah.
What somebody told me this once, and it kind of rings oddly true. Besides kayaking, where you can push off into some part of the Puget Sound.
Yeah.
If you're an outdoor person, even in the summertime when things are great, it takes an hour
to get anywhere. And I like surfing, so I have to get 2.5 hours out to Westport.
Yeah, if you want to get to the mountains, it's an hour. If you want to, like it, which I find funny.
Some people live closer.
As many REI nuts as there are out there. It's
you
like
go drive an hour in your car.
Right.
It's very green of you.
Yeah, it's super green. Helping
Not knocking it. I loved hiking when I had the heart for it. Hiking, I've climbed a few mountains, so yeah, this is good pastime. But I'm more of a surfer. That's more my speed now, and that is only 5 hours away from here. So
yeah,
that's the other reason why if I were to move to Texas, it'd probably be San Antonio, Austin, New Braunfels area, because Corpus Christi isn't too far away, and I guess there's surfing there. I haven't checked it out yet, so correct me if I'm wrong if there isn't surfing there, viewers.
I think there is. I just think if your choice was to move to Arizona, Nevada, something like that, and drive the 4 hours to get to Southern California.
Yeah.
Or to drive
surfing
the 4 hours to get to Corpus Christi.
Yeah. Well, it is 2 hours. So
2 hours.
So the change in drive time, San Antonio to Corpus Christi is about 2-3 hours, and that's about my drive time to Westport.
Yeah.
So
I think you'd probably find the water condition a lot better in California for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly what all of the apps say. And I've surfed in San Diego and other areas, Santa Cruz and stuff. So it'd be a lot easier to jump over to the coastline and drive up to Santa Cruz and spend a weekend there. So, you know,
I'd do it. Fuck, we did it last year.
Yeah.
I love California.
Minus surfboards.
I just don't like any of the people there.
Right.
I mean,
the price tag, but
and the price tag and the politics.
Yep.
The 3 Ps of the West Coast.
3 Ps of the West Coast, Oregon, Washington, California. Do you see, so real quick, my long-term goal, I want to create my own space for me and my hobbies. I love working on my cars. I've got an old truck that I've had since I was 19, and it's needed restoring for at least 20 years. So it's about time to get that going, but I just don't have a shop or anything to work on it with. Yeah. I got the know-how, I just don't have the space. So creating that space to make my hobbies and lifestyle happen, I think down here is where that's going to happen. Is just property alone in where I currently live is unattainable. It's not feasible at this moment. It's just so expensive. It's cost prohibitive to build up there. Now, can I command the same wage that I do up there down here? Because right now I charge $125 an hour up there. Can I do the same thing down here? I'd probably have to drop my price down. We'll play with the economics of that and see what I can charge.
Get a contract with one of the casinos to do their renovations. I'm sure they'll pay you that.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Right. Should they pretty good?
I get what you mean, though. It's a different economy.
Different economy, so there's a lot that I'd have to learn there. Also, building science between the different regions. That's something I've already been studying for the last couple of years. Is the difference between building down here in Washington State. You've got a lot of water up there. Here you have torrential downpours, but you're trying to insulate for heat. Everything's stucco and tile roofs. Everything in Washington State is
asphalt shingle and
asphalt 3-tab composite shingle. Sometimes metal roof, standing seam roofs are becoming all the rage up there.
Could you imagine a metal roof down here?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There are some. But a lot of people do the torch down on the tile because there's a huge insulation value. So it's kind of, you build how the region has built forever. Think about the adobe buildings that, in New Mexico and everything. There's a lot of heat retention from the sun to keep you warm overnight, and it also insulates enough to keep you cooler during the day when the sun's out. So there's some.
Do you think if I transition to a metal roof that the pigeons would stop landing on my roof?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you went with black.
What if I made it reflective?
Oh, even better.
Like,
I don't know
if they even get close.
I don't think they'd allow you to
It's
do
just like a lightsaber's beam coming off the top of my house that incinerates them, feathers and all, as they fly through the beam of. It's like a death ray. That's what I want.
Death ray from your roof.
I want a magnifying glass that bounces off a mirror and goes straight up.
You just get polished chrome for your entire roof line.
Can we do something like that?
I mean, you got a lot of pitch changes, but yeah, it's doable.
Enough mirrors
shiny
with like a
beacon.
directed death ray beam to incinerate these fucking pigeons would be so cool.
You make it tracking too. I'm sure you could build some software for that.
I'm certain there's some sort of risk, fire hazard, passing airplanes getting shot out of the sky with a death ray.
Yeah.
I mean, details we'll have to work through, right? But if it gets rid of the pigeons, I'm probably all in.
I think the biggest issue with the standing seam metal roofs would be the expansion and contraction with the hot and the cold.
It's loud enough with stucco and concrete.
You hear it.
Oh man, dude! In the summer when the AC starts to like actually set, and it's 96 degrees out at 11:30 at night or whatever, you can hear where the whole house kind of shifts and expands and stuff, and you're like, what the hell?
I don't know if people know this, but houses expand and contract based off of weather. Some people think that houses are just a standard static structure.
Yeah.
They breathe, they move. Well, some of the newer houses don't breathe at all, and that's been a new building science thing that they're trying to figure out right now.
Yeah.
Blower door test, trying to seal up everything.
The walls bleed sometimes.
They bleed rain.
But no, it's like when you're not expecting it and that happens to you the first time, you're like, is my house about to fall over?
The roof's coming in.
What was that?
Yeah.
No, but that's pretty wild. But seriously, though, if we could death ray the pigeons, let's talk.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll get my roofers on it. I also would like to have a branch in Washington and maintain my clientele up there, because I've had a couple clients leave, but I still have a lot of business up there. And it's the circle that I've grown, the Rolodex of customer base that I'd like to keep up there and maintain that stream of income and keep the LLC up there and still keep paying taxes into a state that I don't live in by running a crew up there, and then have a crew down here, and then maybe a crew in Austin too, and have pro-con fix in 3 different states. So we'll see how that goes. That's my big pipe dream. But I know that takes personnel and a lot of planning and
a little good luck.
I'm usually really lucky. I just need to plan more.
I mean, if you could land like a real big contract that would force your hand into finding a couple of people, and maybe those couple of people turn out to be really awesome. Yeah. And you're like, man, maybe we could make a run at this in this area.
Right.
And then they get their own team in that area, and you try again in a different area. I mean,
it's just build the team, and I'm all about retention of talent and finding the good people and holding on to them for dear life, because I know I've been that guy, and I've talked to the employees that have hired me before. Like, God, we can't find someone like you. You set the bar so high. No one's been able to do what you used to do. I was like, but I moved on because I got my degree and I moved on, man. It was a placeholder job, and it served as place for that time and place in my life. And I had a good time learning there. But
it's not impossible to do. But I think the hard part, or like what I perceive from an outside perspective, is what's working against you the most for that is operating on such a razor thin margin that you do. When you find somebody good, they're going to cost a lot of money. And they often don't stay because they could either start their own thing. And
those are the guys that a lot of the contractors I've talked to that you want to try and keep, though, is like if they can, you want to hire people that could be you.
Yeah.
That could do your job. You want to hire those people.
Yeah.
You want to retain those people and keep them happy. And sometimes they could do exactly what you do. They just don't want to do the paperwork business side. And I tell you what, as a small business owner, it's not a fun thing.
No,
that's the stuff you don't want to do when you come home at the end of a 10, 12-hour day. But sometimes it was a 4-hour day and you just don't have the energy or the mindset for it, but it's got to get done. It waits, paperwork waits for nobody. Just gotta get it done. So.
Yeah, quarterly tax filings for WA State waits for no man as well. I've been down there.
Monthly for me.
Yeah. Oh, you opted monthly?
Yes.
Yeah, I did the quarterly thing when I had a business license.
Truthfully, I was forced into it.
I mean, tomato, other type of tomato.
Yeah. DOR is like, no, you have to file monthly now. It's like, I understand. I will not argue with you.
I'm picking up what you're laying down.
I will do exactly as you tell me. Ma'am, yes, ma'am. Sir, yes, sir. Thank you, COVID. Yeah, that was the part that really
fortunes of a misspent pandemic, eh?
That was the challenge of COVID was the lockdowns. They didn't really hurt so much. It was the entire clusterfuck of the supply chain. Well, you're in the middle of a job that's supposed to take X amount of time. And then all of a sudden, your income for that job is dwindling down because you were supposed to finish it in this amount of time.
Sure.
Now it's taking this amount of time, and you don't know when your materials are coming in all of a sudden. Some materials doubled in price after you've already bid. You can't go back and renegotiate with your customer. Even with the extreme circumstance of COVID, it's like you got to do your customer right. This was the bid. Just work some side jobs and make up the difference is what I did.
Yeah, my dad went through that.
Yeah.
You know,
the materials just doubled overnight.
But by the third job, he was like, you cannot be indecisive about this. We buy the materials today.
Yes. I had to do that.
Or you come back to me when you're ready for this because look. And he would show them like board foot's gone up 3 times in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Like I can't keep up with how fast these things are growing. So like you and I come down here, we buy these things today or come back when you're ready. But like if I do a bid and him and Han think about it and get a competitive bid, like a normal, diligent shopper would try to work the comm set down to the best possible price for value or whatever.
Yeah.
Educated consumer, I get it. But like them days are gone, bro. And he was struggling because he lost his ass on a couple jobs where he was like, I can't fuck them over because I gave them this quote. Yeah. And then we started the project and the prices went up before we got all the materials. So.
I got screwed on the OSB for a job and that was double the cost of and it was a large job. So it was a multi-$1,000 hit for me. And then after that on the same job, I was pricing out their deck. And I said, if you get me a check within 2 days, I can pay for the materials. If you don't get me a check in 2 days, material prices are going up so fast, we need to requote this and it's going to go up. It went up because they didn't get to me in time before I left for vacation. When I came back a week later, the price had gone up $300. It's like you could have saved $300 just by getting me that check, but that's how fast the materials were going up through the roof. So,
and I remember when I was doing the most extensive repairs for this place, there was some stuff like I would have done the floor trim and just but
it was through the roof on price.
The edges were out of control. They still are. Yeah. And I looked at the cost for just the floor trim, and I was like, this is absurd. Yeah. And there's no shot I'm doing this.
You just save it for another day. Yeah. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's there right now versus ripping it all off. And the worst thing you could do is be like a mechanic and never work on your own vehicle. You tear all it off, and it just sits without any base. I've been through that before in other houses growing up where the basement was unfinished to save money on a split level. So the whole upstairs is finished, the outside's finished, but the basement I'm living in, it has like some drywall. It has all the electrical.
Studs and drywall
for the downstairs. Like this is a shitty way to save money. Yeah. So don't save money by not finishing your basement for your kids' sake. Just finish the damn house.
Do it for the children.
Do it for the children. Finish the damn house right.
But yeah, like I had... A price had gone up even on the appliances that they were pre-manufactured and on the showroom floor, so there really wasn't a reason for them to hike prices because it wasn't like we were waiting on computer chips that weren't.
It was
being
already there manufactured.
It was already in the box.
Okay.
And it was like, all right, so you're raising prices just because you get a chance to gouge because everything's going up, and no one's going to look twice.
That's happening now because of inflation. Well, and I say that with quotes. There is inflation. I'm not discounting that there isn't.
We're posturing for tariffs that haven't hit yet. Yeah.
Right.
So the short story is like a rival home supply store had the exact same 2 appliances in a different color.
Okay.
And they were $500 cheaper, meaning they were closer to the MSRP they should have been in the beginning.
Yeah.
And they just hiked the prices up on the other ones. And so I went across town and bought them there. I was like, this is bullshit. I'll take the different colored one that may or may not be as aesthetically pleasing. It's the same model number.
It's amazing
it's the
how
same
cheap,
fucking machine.
It's amazing how cheap white appliances are now.
Yeah.
That everybody wants to do.
And that's what happened.
Everybody wants to do stainless steel. You get white.
The stainless and the black colored ones were way expensive.
You want to save some money? Just go white, man. Don't keep up with the Joneses. Get all the same and just make it work for your budget. One thing that I've learned from a lot of the build shows, though, people tend to skimp on their appliances when they're building a house, when they're pricing out a place. 9 times out of 10, they regret it down the road.
Yeah.
Because of repair costs and replacing it multiple times versus if you just buy once, cry once with a really good appliance. I have a Bosch dishwasher that I bought in 2012. Maybe it was 2010. So this dishwasher is 15 years old. I bought it on clearance because it was open box, but brand new. Bosch dishwasher, back when Bosch made really good dishwashers. They still make great dishwashers, but they were amazing back then. It's still running. It's still chooching. Now, granted, I pre-wash everything. I run it on a quick cycle because I kind of pre-wash everything. It doesn't need to go the full cycle. But I maintain it, I clean it, and keep the lines clean. Works great. Works great. I also don't have hard water like you do here, too.
Yeah.
So that also has probably helped it immensely. That's one thing I will miss.
Starting appliances off on soft water for the beginning of their lifespan once they're installed helps.
Yes. Versus letting it empty out and then just go calcified, full calcified.
Anything that had water running through it is a complete waste. The only appliance that I've kept that had water running through it is the garage fridge, and there's no water spout going to it at all now. It just serves to keep things cold. That's the only thing it's doing. So
does a good job on that.
Yeah.
Don't have to worry about the filter and stuff getting clogged. But
so what do you want to do down here before you go? We got a car show tomorrow.
Yeah.
Any other things you're looking forward to or want
I
to try
haven't
out?
had In-N-Out yet.
No, really?
We don't get that in Washington. I had it last time I was down here, and I'm not super set on getting that. I'm also be down for a steak and shake because I've never had that.
Yeah.
A steak burger I had for the first time at a really mediocre. The burger was great. It actually tasted better than I thought it would for how the place looked when I walked in. Freddy's. I had a steak burger there, and it was better than I had anticipated. But I'd like to try a steak and shake. And if they've switched over their fries and they're doing beef tallow fries like McDonald's used to do back in the day, I would love to try beef tallow fries. So
all right.
I've had duck fat fries, but so
we'll put it on the list. I mean, we're not going to be in the sun for 8 hours tomorrow. We'll probably be out there for like 2 or 3. So we'll figure it out.
I'm really stoked about the car show tomorrow.
Me too, especially if there's a drift event.
Yeah.
All right, so we got burgers, car show.
Car show. Outside of that, we hit a little candy land by going to Freedom Fireworks, fireworks, Freedom Seed, Freedom Fireworks, fire show.
Fire stick,
boom, boom. Outside of that, go for a ride in the Z, man.
Cool.
Yeah,
you can do it.
All about it.
So, movie,
dude.
Which one are we reviewing? We're gonna do.
We can do multiple.
We can do all 3. Really, we can bang them out.
Okay.
So I
definitely have stuff.
2 of these 3 we've reviewed on the pod with Lucky and I.
Sicario, correct?
Sicario and Boy Kills World.
Okay. Cool.
Because I made him watch that, and he was like, "What? This is sick."
The same. I had the exact same reaction. I was like, I knew this was going to be fun because you recommended it. I had no idea what the premise was. other than the name.
Yeah.
He's going to go murder a bunch of people. Cool.
Right. What did you think of Boy Kills World?
So I'm pretty good at picking up on plots.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I saw some of the plot lines come together. Did not expect how it all wrapped up at the end. That really threw me for a loop. And it's a lot of trippy, like ayahuasca peyote trips. The beginning montages of him.
Always a treat to see Famke Janssen.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. Seeing the character development in this.
Yeah.
And the inner monologue being the voice of Archer. I forgot the actor's name.
H. John Benjamin is the actor, the voice actor.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I love Archer.
Yeah.
I think he's a great voice. He's one of my favorite voice actors.
Yeah. He does Bob's Burgers, I think, too, which I have not really seen. So.
Right. Yep. That also. The movie kept me on my seat for sure. Really excited about the fight scenes and the choreography.
Yeah.
The choreography, the fight scenes were John Wick level.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. Just not a whole lot, not as much gunplay, but still some gunplay.
Yeah, a little bit here and there. They obviously focused on the martial arts and hand-to-hand stuff, but epically so, I might add. But the Bill Skarsgård's job, like performance, one of the things, and I mentioned this before, but like
no words in the dialogue. Like
the fact that he was as expressive as he was with 0 lines of dialogue to me was fantastic.
Yes.
Like I thought he absolutely killed it in a role where he has 0 lines and a shitload of physical activity to do.
Yeah.
It was really fun to watch. Like that guy's pretty versatile. Like I didn't realize, but
blew me away.
Because he was Pennywise in It.
I have not seen that.
Yeah.
I'm not
a big scary movies guy.
That's it. I'm not either.
He did that. He's done a bunch of indie stuff. He did The Crow recently.
Yeah, and I do want to see that.
Mm-hmm. I have that. We can watch that too.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll put that on after the podcast.
Yeah. Well, it's 1:45. I'm probably going to bed before the car show.
We got the car show. Trying to think of where else that I want to hit on that movie.
Macaroon's good.
The macaroon scene was, oh my God.
That was fucking
That was
awesome.
hilarious. And then you bring it full circle, spoiler alert, like it's his sister in his head is telling him to eat the macaroons, and then he's eating the macaroon off the table during a fight scene with a girl. Turns out to be his sister who's actually alive, and she's slicing the macaroon. I thought that was an interesting script choice. Like, his sister in his head is telling him to eat the cookie, and then the sister in real life is actually cutting the cookie in half while they're fighting.
Yeah.
I thought that was just going full circle with it. If I had to give it Megs, it would be 7 on the toothy end. The one thing I didn't like was all the CGI blood.
Yeah.
Just give me regular blood. I see straight through the CGI stuff. Reminds me of 300.
Yeah, that was the very Scott Pilgrim-y part of it, where like they would do the cartoon panel zoom out while someone's flying through the air and the splash and then the lighting effects. Yeah.
I get it. It is based. I assumed it was based off a comic book, and you told me that it was while we were watching. I was like, okay. I see that. I see that being a comic book based movie adaptation, and I think they did a great job. I was just so stoked to be in a world that I did not see coming. Yeah, that was fun, getting immersed in a world that was like Hunger Games. In comic book form. So that was really good. Sicario, right after that. Was not ready for that first 10 minutes. Intense movie, and my God, it starts off like a roller coaster. Yeah. Very well cast. Very well cast. Everyone in that movie was bang on. Yep. Yeah. They did a great job. And Emily Blunt played a very stubborn, I want to know what's going on all the time. And half the time in the movie, it's like, just go with it, man. They're probably doing something really cool because they're probably CIA. It turns out they are CIA. Yeah. And they're doing some kind of illegal stuff, but you don't need to know about it because they brought her along to make it legal. That crossing their T's and dotting their I's. That was the biggest reveal of that film was like when she finally recognizes and her partner recognizes in that moment that like, no, we can conduct business on U.S. soil so long as there's a domestic agency attached to this detail. Yep. And all at once you realize the only reason we're here is so you can do whatever the fuck you want and it doesn't matter what we do. Yep. And like when they both connect those dots and you see it sink in,
dude.
It's
yeah,
like,
you're like, oh man. So
the blood just drains out of their face. Yeah.
yeah, there was some obvious dramatization stuff here and there that was like obviously to drive a plot forward and things. They brought in the guy that plays the Punisher or whatever, like him being in there as like a little mid-movie muse for her, and also to drive the plot into a little bit of a fun direction while he's getting his ass beat by Benicio's character in the backseat of a cop car and shit.
The wet willy that makes you cry.
Yeah, like John Bernthal is that actor that plays that role, and he plays in a lot of intense roles.
Yeah.
He was in Walking Dead and The Punisher and a bunch of different stuff. He's always really, really fun, but I thought that was kind of cool, but maybe a little melodramatic the way they executed some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But other than that, I love the movie. I was
it's spot on and keeps you entertained and engaged.
Yeah,
the whole time.
It's like
you really want to see what the hell's going on.
It's spy stuff, but not in a James Bond kind of way at all. And it's very intriguing because you're like, oh,
it's in a really grimy, gritty, behind the scenes look at probably what really goes on.
Yeah, you start to think of these Sean Ryan conversations, and you're like, oh, this is probably a very accurate portrayal of kind of how stuff gets done around there.
Yeah,
or at least maybe how it used to, but. Yeah, I thought that was kind of fun. And then, so Megs
on that, definitely an 8.5. And, oh man, almost, I would say 9, actually. There wasn't any, the only gripe I had about it is the character development on, well, her just being so stubborn in the movie instead of just fucking going with it.
Yeah.
Be a part of fun. I'd say 9, actually.
9 Megs going into, okay, there's a sequel.
Yeah. I had very high hopes for that. It was very intense. It didn't have the same drama level. It was just more intense. It
didn't, story-wise, it didn't have the same drama level or bite to the plot line.
Right.
However, Benicio del Toro carries this movie.
Yes.
And like has to act through some pretty intense scenes, including getting shot in the fucking head.
Yep.
And it's like, oh my God.
And it's like, oh man, he's dead. And then all of a sudden you see him start shaking. It's like, where's this movie going? Is he getting reincarnated all of a sudden? No, he's not being reincarnated.
He's not. He's just suffering
shot through his mouth.
Very savage wound.
Like a Fight Club level of shoot through the mouth. And he survives.
Yeah, he put in work in this film. He's acting his ass off in this film.
It did not go where I thought I was going. Yeah. Every time I thought I knew where the plot was going, they just took the wheel and went, nope, over here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
I'll ride along.
I feel like the movie's fatal flaw was the overt importance they put on this teenage girl.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, because at some point they're going to be like, we'll try again some other way.
Right.
And they'll think the cartel did it.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished.
Right. That's it.
But instead they have a
very throwaway character that they tried to make more important than she was.
And the reason they didn't do that is because in order for that narrative to be birthed on scene, the Americans would have had to have offed that girl.
Yeah.
And that would have made us the devil in the plot line. And I don't think they would have allowed that.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was kind of the weak link, because she was like this weird MacGuffin that is like this eternalized can't touch it character, must have character to drive next plot.
Yeah.
And it was like, is she that important ultimately in the scheme of the movie? No, she didn't have to be. There was another couple of things they could have done to drive their ultimate goal.
Yep.
But all in, pretty wild to see their take on rival cartel activity, how people treat one another down there, what it took to get around down there and back to the border, like a lot of shit.
Talking about designating cartels as terrorist groups.
Yeah.
Talk about
little foreshadowing almost.
The future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that movie came out in what, 2015 to 18, something like that? I think
so, yeah.
Yeah, so
it was a while ago. And look at us now.
Yeah.
So that was a trip. Megs, 6.5.
Yeah, I'd say it's 6 Megs for me.
6 because I wouldn't watch that again. I'd watch the first one again.
Sicario 1 is, I mean, it takes your breath away and then keeps hitting you in the stomach for the rest of the time you're watching the movie, where you're like, oh my God.
That's the best drama intense that I've seen for a while.
Yeah, very thrilling movie. And I know that they had tried to fund a third one.
Oh, really?
And it keeps being, it was like a pandemic fund, so it's like lost to the aether and then kicked back, and now somebody else owns the right. And Josh Brolin would, boy, I'd love to reprise that role, and Benicio like, well, we don't have much time, but I would love to reprise that role.
Yeah,
and it just
we're going to run out of time, and we're going to be 10 years older by the time they get around to it.
Keep circling the wagons. But one thing they can do is the kid character at the end of Sicario 2.
Yeah, you want to be a Sicario.
Like, let's talk about your future as he closes the door. And at this point, you don't know if he's going to shoot him in the head.
Right.
Or if he's going to make the next Sicario.
Or as we said, kid, you got to aim a little higher next time.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think it's going to be a tutelage type of situation if that's the plot line they go with. Simply because Benicio del Toro's character is supposed to be a Colombian drug lord interest mover guy from the first plot line.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to befriend a young Mexican cartel wannabe member to help shape him into being the next version of himself. Yeah, they're at odds by the nature of their interests. If he really believes in the cartel movement, if he's just in it for money and wants to be a hard ass, maybe you can see that working out.
Right.
But I don't want it to be a father-son learn how to be a killer movie. Yeah. I would rather us take place in what this kid has grown into under the tutelage of this guy and have a couple flashback scenes.
They should bring a shaved head Woody Harrelson in there.
Yeah. Bring The Rock in there. Maybe Kevin Hart. I haven't seen these guys in anything recently. It'd be great.
That's my thought on those two.
I'm with you though. I give it 6 megs on this one. Hopefully they make it 3 and it's good. But I don't think you can touch the impact of the first one just because it was so well done.
Sequels. There's always 1, 2, or 3, or 1 or 2, and 1 or 2 of them are always better than the others. One was definitely stealing the show for me after seeing 2 of them, and both of them back to back in 2 days. Yeah,
pretty wild.
One was a knockout. That was awesome. And Boy Kills World. What? That's got some high rewatchability too for like a Friday night popcorn movie for me.
Super fun. Yep. I'm with you.
Good shoot 'em up movie.
Well, I mean, it's almost 1 a.m. Pacific time. Yeah. You got anything else for tonight, you think?
No. Stay safe and keep your dick in a vice.
Or carry a foam safety pickle with you everywhere.
You put a safety pickle in a vice.
Yeah, put a safety pickle in a vice. And save yourself a little bit. I appreciate you guys hearing us out. We had a lot to kind of express. I did, certainly. I'm not done talking about this. I'm still catching my breath from it, but lots more to come up. But
more to touch on by Tuesday, right?
Yeah, quite a bit. And, I'll probably have some more insight by Tuesday night's pod as well, which I think will hopefully help me shape an opinion even more than just a reaction. But thankfully, I get to keep making a house payment, so I feel blessed to that. But we'll be back Tuesday with Lucky. It's super late. We just kind of want to hook up on a Saturday night, have a good conversation while we still have the chance to in person. And
yeah, man.
Thanks a lot for doing this.
Absolutely.
So
got to keep the podcast alive.
Got to keep it alive.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Of course, anytime. So that's it for us. We'll probably see Paul again in the future, and certainly Lucky and I will be back Tuesday, barring any schedule conflicts or anything weird. So thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. And I appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.
See ya.